Hello, everyone, and welcome to AGO from Home, our new digital platform. Thank you for joining us this evening, presumably from your home, where we hope you're well and safe. My name is Bojana Stančić, and I am the Assistant Curator, Live Projects and Performance at the Art Gallery of Ontario. Today, we meet in the virtual world, but I would still like to acknowledge that the Art Gallery of Ontario operates on land that is the territory of the Anishinaabe-Mississauga Nation, and was also the territory of the Wendat and the Haudenosaunee. The Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant is an agreement between the Haudenosaunee Confederacy and the Anishinaabe Three Fires Confederacy to peaceably share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. This Friday night's time slot has been conceived as a combination of archival memories and programs that are looking into the future of arts and creativity. In the last few weeks, we brought you music inspired by abstract expressionist paintings, courtesy of Memory Pearl, transition of Silverina's dance piece made for theater to its current form on the digital festival circuit, visual artist Eri Cha, who checked in from London, choreographer Marie Lambin Gagnon, that checked in from Toronto, and we even heard from Peaches in Berlin. Tonight's program is special because, yet again, we get to talk to artists we love, and particularly resonant because so much of our current lives are revolving around our homes. And that universe was very much the backdrop of Nikola Steer's, aka Coco Framboise, piece Aphrodite, HairLoom, that took place in Mickalene Thomas's living room tableau, part of her exhibition Femmes Noires at the HEO in January 2018. Hi, Nikola.
Hello.
Welcome so much to this new digital world that we're meeting in.
It is so wonderful to join you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's such pleasure. Yeah, it's been a while, but it also feels like it hasn't been a really long time either. Luckily, I will just say a few maybe things about the performance that you did, and then maybe we can sort of talk a little bit more about sort of its resonances now and our current moment, which we can never get away from. Aphrodite, and we have some of the images here too. Aphrodite HairLoom was many things. Contemplation of Black beauty, your personal archives, tribute to a lineage and community, and an overall generous and deeply generative celebration, platforming a multitude of voices. In some of the images archival, I think in the pre-interview we were talking about unpacking them. I'm seeing your mother here. I'll just let you maybe talk through some of your reminiscences through these photos.
Oh, this is so lovely to see these images because I hadn't seen any of the archival photographs from this wonderful night that we shared together in January of 2019. It's so much fun. It's always fun spending time with my mother, Pat Steer, and it's such a beautiful image because I don't have this moment in my archives at all.
I mean, but also the joys on both of your faces kind of creating this work is something that has never left me, and it so marks my experience of that night as well.
I'm so glad that she said yes to creating with me.
But to be honest, you also had your sister here and your niece.
I did. My sister and her daughter came all the way from Montreal. My sister Tracy told me that she didn't let her daughter Ava Scarlett know about the trip until just before they took it. I think they pulled her out of school to come take the train into Toronto, and it was about to be Ava Scarlett's 11th birthday. And she was so surprised to come to Toronto and to come to this night. And she very quickly was able to appreciate the scope and the weight and importance of this moment for Black women, for me, for our family. And it was so meaningful. I understood it when I called these women forward to hold my hair while I danced. I saw the seriousness in her face when I handed her a braid, and she transformed in front of me. She just like accepted this responsibility. She was so serious, and it broke my heart, but like in the happy way, like my heart just split into happy birds that flew. And it's been such an honor to have this baby woman in my life, and to have her with me in this on this very special occasion in the gallery. I
Maybe.
I also see in this photo, I see my dear friend Marsh with the blue hair, who I met through Choir, who's always been an incredible force of support. Beside her with the long hair, we see Ivory, who is an incredible force of wonder. She is a jazz singer. She is a burlesque artist. She's the founder of the Succulent Six. She breathes fire. She's an archer. She runs a farm. She rides her horses naked. She's a witch. She's phenomenal. Beside her, Corey Brannigan, an incredible jazz artist and former backup dancer to me as one of Coco's bonbons. And this wonderful stranger whose name I did not get, this person in the red coat, we had a lot of meaningful eye contact as I was doing this performance in the round, and I felt like she wanted to be present for me. So I gave her a strand of my hair, and she instantly stood up and held that. And I just think it's so wonderful, the ways in which we can hold each other as humans. And like the person taking my hand is in the blue-gray dress is the artist Obscura, who is phenomenal. Also opened her own architecture firm, is just a force of transformation, and is definitely an artist to watch as well.
I'm wondering whether or not we're sort of doing the full service, because we will show the archival sort of video of this piece after. But do you want to talk maybe about sort of the piece itself and the kind of practical aspects? Just
Absolutely. This piece was this piece came to me. I had the idea that I wanted to do something with hair. I knew I needed to talk about the pain and the joy of this hair that grows out of my head, the experiences I've had with it. And so I wanted to use material from my life. The braids that I used to wear as a child that my mother would braid for me, usually just a few big braids, were made from 3 strands. And in echoing that, I used 3 strands of material. I used hair, I used black stockings from my burlesque practice. All of my bonbons wore stockings and so on in my pieces. And of course, I would provide those items to them and they'd return them. But then what do you do with a bunch of black stockings? Turns out you braid them and use them as bases for headdresses or bustles for costumes. And so I had those, and that became a 2nd strand. But the 3rd strand, the most important strand, is textiles. And these textiles were originally just going to be from my own life. But as other Black women in my community and in my international community heard about this project, they all seemed to spontaneously reach out to me saying, here's this textile, here's what it means to me in my life. Would you consider wearing this in your hair? And the piece then became a kind of sound collage. As I gathered the textiles, I then interviewed each person about what the textile meant to them. And that was the soundscape that was holding the performance. And every few stories or so, I would live tell something from my own life. So everything that you see in this offering is held with a lot of honor, a lot of responsibility, a lot of care for all the many lives that generously contributed. And I am still so moved that strangers came to me with their story and entrusted me, and did not want, many of them did not want the materials back. They asked me to let it live in archive as I expand the piece going forward. Very generous.
I mean, I felt all of those moments, even though obviously I didn't have the same experience sort of in my life. But the tenderness, the generosity, and the space that you hold for others as well was really palpable throughout. I mean, I was sort of reminiscing previously about we had made a decision to close the door, and we were sort of packed audience. Like I don't know how many hundreds of people there were. We couldn't actually accommodate any more in the space. But before we opened the doors, it was like a snaking line. But there was no tension and there was no anxiety of like usually waiting sort of audiences before the doors open. And I think that spoke a lot about your work as an artist, as a performer, and sort of like some of the thematics that you tackle are not about cutting in or cutting through, but it is really about holding space and it's about platforming. And it was really sort of I'm just trying to kind of say that sort of the experience of your work replicates maybe the experience of the people participating in it. So
I think it's an energy that we create together in community. I remember walking in with you, and I remember the gentle parting of the crowd as they realized we were trying to get through, and everybody just let us through. They just allowed us to do our thing. I didn't have to. There was never any tense moment about where to sit or
no.
stand. People could feel that the space was needed, and they were part of holding that space. And everybody in attendance had a role there, and played it beautifully. So to everybody who was able to be with me that night, thank you. Thank you all for contributing to the magic.
Nikola, so much of that piece also, as you were talking with your mother and your experiences, is about reflection. And I can't help but sort of try to posit this question, and again, like how to phrase it is challenging, but as you reflect now on the piece, and I'm just even reflecting on the moment from when I invited you to participate in this program to us actually filming this segment and program. So many things have happened. Originally we only had sort of COVID to tackle and new realities that brought up, and then subsequently there was the sort of revolution that happened post May 25th and the murder of George Floyd. So I'm just wondering, like, how do you reflect on this work now, because so much of it is about reflection already? How does this kind of like dynamic and shifting landscape change that from moment to moment, day to day now?
Well, I think that we're always shifting. I think we're always changing ourselves. We're changing our perspectives all the time. We have to respond to the moment that we're in, and we bring to every moment every other moment we've lived through. And there's something really beautiful about that. There's also something that's very tense about that sometimes. I think we've all had the experience of looking at work that maybe doesn't connect in the current moment. Maybe there are things that were harmful in the past, or ideas, perspectives we've moved through. I think we all know that experience. But when I look at this work, I think about where I was in contemplating my hair. I think about, and when I say my hair, I think about the external pressures I've experienced to change the texture of my hair and why. Different feelings about the change in texture of my hair, because my hair was first relaxed at the age of probably 12, and it was cut for the first time at 13, which I share in this work. And that was a traumatic experience, but over time, I've enjoyed that my relaxed hair texture can create many, many shapes. And I've enjoyed those shapes. So I've mostly treated it as artist medium in my life. But now with this, with the continued change in cultural, in what's going on in the cultural landscape, and how we are, we're seeing this wonderful uprising against forces of repression. I'm thinking about my hair in a new way. I'm thinking about whether or not I want to continue relaxing my hair. especially now where, you know, we've all been at home for a while, and like everybody, my hair too has grown out. I haven't had an opportunity to relax it. I haven't had an opportunity to color it. So I'm looking at lots of beautiful kinks. Like I quite like my kinky hair. And it's grayer than I ever remember it being. And it makes me think about like what how I feel about my Black beauty now. What is authentic to me now? What am I outgrowing? What am I embracing? What am I afraid of? And you know, I have no answers about that, but I can tell you that I'm sitting with a lot of questions. And you know, the discomfort of like, is my body a political site? It is, but do I have to demonstrate my politics with my hair? Can I just be a person with hair? Can't I? What does that mean? I don't know. Still thinking, but it's a wonderful moment to be reflecting on all the choices we make. What is harmful? What is life affirming? What is outdated? What needs to evolve? Mm-hmm. I think across the board in all areas of life, we all need to be doing this.
You have been working through some of these questions before. I mean, the HairLoom performance was not the first time that the Aphrodite, and I don't know if you call it a character or a body of work, you had embodied that sort of personhood. You embodied her.
Yeah. Yeah.
So can you tell us maybe a little bit more about that evolution? And
so, yeah, like the Aphrodite kind of series, I guess. It's more of a body of work than a character, really. The first piece in this collection I created in 2017, and it was called Aphrodite Black Betty. And it features, in that performance, I go through excerpts of 3 different versions of the song Black Betty. One starting with the gritty blues version that most people don't know, transitioning into Ram Jam's version of it, the kind of fast guitar, heady guitar version that most people know and think of as the original. It is not. And then into a very contemporary, brand new at the time, electro swing version. And I transitioned through those 3 versions with a different energy. And at the end, it culminated in a wonderful moment with my fellow Black burlesque dancers who were all participating with me at the Toronto Burlesque Festival where this performance took place. And they all joined me on stage for a beautiful moment of glory and resistance. And yeah, so that was that first piece. The second one was also on the Toronto Burlesque Festival stage, and it was called Aphrodite Cocoa Butter. In that piece, my prop was a giant bottle of cocoa butter, spelled cocoa in the Coco Framboise way without the A at the end. And in that performance, I start out with just an oversized mane, lioness, and kind of huge, kinky wig. And as I am transformed by this golden cocoa butter, as I slide it onto my skin and we start to see the gold bits, I'm transformed, and this hair comes off and reveals a rhinestoned afro filled with butterflies. And my costume was nudes and shimmer, just nude shimmer opulence. And my boa, instead of being a feather boa, was a boa made from afro curls and ending with strands of kinky hair. That's a little bit reminiscent of dreads, but not quite that. And so I reinterpreted this sort of classic burlesque prop of a feather boa into something that was speaking to a Black aesthetic, and reveling in that and finding power in that. And then I was invited to create Aphrodite HairLoom, which had been living in my mind because I'd seen Mickalene Thomas work in a Seattle, at the Seattle Art Museum, and was so struck by the scale of the work that I sat down and wept in the gallery, and I just sat there for 2 hours. And that piece is really what inspired the cocoa butter piece.
Oh, wow. So it
Yeah.
predates the HairLoom performance.
Yes, I think that was really why I reached out to the gallery about it. I had seen Mickalene's work in March of 2018. I created the cocoa butter piece that summer for Toronto Burlesque Festival. In between those times, we had seen what had happened. I think Black Panther had come out. Uh, uh, Childish Gambino's work had come out. This is America.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was a lot that had come out in the culture that made me feel like I wanted to punch harder and be more vocal. So I created Cocoa Butter, and then when I saw that the Mickalene Thomas exhibit was coming to Toronto, I knew I needed to reach out, and I was so excited to have this opportunity to create this work that was so urgent in me. And what an honor to have it placed there.
Oh, I mean,
inside Mickalene's work. Mickalene, if you're hearing me, thank you. I was too shy to say thank you directly.
I definitely remember that it wasn't the first time we met, definitely, but I do remember getting the email about your emotional sort of like reaction to the news that the Mickalene Thomas exhibition is coming. And I think at that point it was not perfectly kind of like formed. And then all of a sudden the kind of momentum from seeing the work, from some of our conversation, from some of your thinking, like there was a massive undertaking, how many people contributed to you, how many people you reached out to. I mean, so yeah, you really touched a nerve in your own network, but also did a lot of work to sort of like create it too.
But it was very, to create that work was necessary. Like I was on fire at the time. I couldn't not create this. There was no, can I? It's, this is happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody catch this work. It's coming out of me. And you did. Thank you.
Oh my God, such pleasure. Nikola, I wanted to ask you maybe one more question, kind of coming around sort of the Mickalene Thomas, who is an African-American artist. And I know there was a lot of conversation about how this speaks to the Black Canadian experience. But I will never forget the moment when you walked into the exhibition and the living room setup, and you looked at the flooring and you were like, this is my parents' apartment from when we first moved to Canada. So I'm just wondering if you can kind of
that for everyone at home, the floor in Mickalene Thomas's living room installations, I'm pretty sure it was like a linoleum, but it was a parquet, small parquet squares, which is exactly what the flooring was in my childhood home here in Thorncliffe Park. My parents, when they immigrated to Canada from Jamaica in 1972, rented an apartment, and that was home. That was home.
So you were at your parents'. I can assume. I think this is the kind of the check-in with you now is Nikola, who's in 2020. Oh my God, 2019.
What is time anyway these days?
Anyways, thank you so incredibly much. I think we are going to play the entire piece. Thank you for sharing your documentation as well.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for checking in with us. It's been a really, it's been a year.
It's been a real time.
Yes, it has.
It's been a real time. And I hope that, I look forward to seeing what everyone will be creating in response to this massive moment that every single one of us is affected by. Stay safe, everyone.
Thank you. And thank you also all of you who are watching us. Thank you also to Danny Winchester, our producer, and my colleagues Aidan Salway and Devyani Saltzman. As we're launching into the weekend, I wish you the best. Join us next week. Thank you so much.